Hey everybody, Lou the Jester here, and if you've been paying attention to the discourse within the ARK community lately, you know that there is a large portion of the player base that has a problem with this thing right here, the free loadout. Now, I find it interesting only because I believe that all of the problems that people have with the free loadout are more symptoms that are plaguing the entire game rather than the free loadout themselves, and that this frustration is kind of misguided in being put on free loadout users rather than being put out on the game as a whole. So I'd like to talk about when this problem popped up, what exactly it is, and how I'd like to fix it. So let's start with when it popped up, which, let's be honest, a lot of the community started talking about this mostly around when Stella Montis dropped. That's because Stella Montis itself has provided players with a clear picture of one thing. The spawns in this game need to be taken a look at. Not just spawn timers, but especially spawn locations. Well, also spawn timers too, but more so, at least when it comes to Stella, spawn locations. So if you notice, most of the players who are complaining about free loadout are talking about how a lot of players are using it on Stella Montis itself. Even now, most of the community is kind of understanding if you go into Stella Montis and you bring your own custom loadout, that's really your own choice because you don't have to, and most of the other players aren't going to be running free loadout themselves. At least that's what the sentiment is at the moment. Now, me personally, I feel that it's still very much a 50-50. I'm running into a lot of people who use custom loadouts just as much as I run into people who are running free loadouts. And the longer that Stella has been out, the more this is actually happening. So I think that this is also a symptom of people who are running free loadouts on Stella to learn the map as well, not just to engage in PvP and not have to care about what they lost. But that is exactly how the problem happened. Because there were so many people spawning into Stella and essentially losing their stuff almost right out of spawn. I mean, I've seen a couple clips where people run only a few rooms in, like one or two, and are faced with another enemy squad. So basically everybody said, to hell with it. Why would I bring in all of my good stuff when I could just run in with free loadout, technically still have fun, and potentially get out with better stuff without losing all of my good stuff? And this is where a lot of people are having their point of contention. And I understand it. It doesn't feel good that people who are technically not sacrificing anything can come into the game and take everything from you. But I once again think that this problem is misplaced. This is not something that is inherently an issue with the free loadouts. I think that this is an issue with a lot of different things within the game. So, for example, I believe that the only reason that people are able to be so successful with free loadouts on places like Stella Montis is because of how strong gray weapons are. A level 1 Stitcher can pretty much contend with almost everything in the game. Now, if you make it that a level 4, you're definitely in some business. But you spawn with a level 1 on a free loadout and you can wreck an entire lobby. And that admittedly just doesn't feel good. And this is why I think that the weapons themselves need to have a passover. Why have something be green or blue or purple rarity if gray is just as good? And what I mean is that on paper, a Bobcat should objectively be better than a Stitcher, correct? That's not to say that a person who's using the Stitcher can't use things like game knowledge, positioning, utility with grenades, and all other sorts of things, especially communication mostly, to be able to dominate a team who's using slightly better weapons. But the problem is, even in a straight up firefight, a lot of the time, some of these gray weapons are able to punish and put down other raiders just as fast. I know so many people who say the Batina isn't worth using simply because it's not as good. It takes way too much heavy ammo and it takes way too many materials to get it into a viable spot in comparison to a lot of the other weapons, not just the other purple ones. Another issue that players rightfully are complaining about is how it feels very unsatisfactory and honestly not very fun to spawn in so late into raids as often as they do even with a custom kit. I've seen people say that custom kits should never spawn in late and only free kits should spawn in late. But to me, I don't know if this necessarily fixes anything. First of all, the feeling of spawning in late is just not good in general. I think that that should just be eliminated entirely. If you remove the option of free loadouts, even then you would still have people with custom loadouts who spawn in late, and that still wouldn't feel good. So even without free loadouts being in the game, you would still have something that doesn't feel good, which is spawning in late. I don't think it should matter what kit you have. To me, what matters more is when you're spawning. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe that you should be able to spawn anywhere past the first 10 minutes. Once those first 10 minutes have gone up, I think that those spawns should be closed off and people should be then put onto a different match. Because in my experience, it's the battle of attrition after you've already fought for 14 and 15 minutes and then you have another half match to still go where people are spawning in with fresh gear and fresh utility after you've already been softened up a bit. And if you haven't found enough to replenish yourself, well, then it just feels like you got punished more because you spawned later than other people and didn't get out in those first 15 minutes. Even though that maybe it might take you the entire 30 for a quest, or even though you might just want to simply play for the entire 30 minutes of a round. But to me, the problem in of itself is how late you're spawning. It has nothing to do with the fact that you have a free kit or custom kit. It's just the fact that you're spawning late at all. I think that really needs to be taken care of. And honestly, I would say that after 8 minutes, that cutoff really needs to either be closed or very much tapered down. The biggest complaint and the most common complaint that I see about people using free loadout is the fact that it's zero risk, which is inherently false. True, you don't spend any materials to bring the things that you bring into a raid, but you also have to guarantee every single item that is on your person gets out successfully or nothing gets out at all. At least if I'm running a custom kit, at the very least, I can bring out a stack of items that might make me some money so that I can either buy things to replenish what I lost, or to the point where whatever that stack of items that I brought out with potentially has some type of use while it's in my stash. Either way, you have the ability to come out with at least some crumbs in your pocket. But if I'm running a free loadout, I don't have that option at all. Because I have no safe pocket. Anything that I find, even if it's that one blueprint that I've been looking for forever, especially if all of my squad mates or whoever else I'm playing with don't have safe pockets, that item cannot get out if I die. I have to successfully extract. Not to mention all of the other inherent nerfs that it comes with. You get less ammo, you get less utility, to the point where if you get into a fight with the pop and it explodes on you, you can't fully heal yourself up because you don't have enough bandages to do so. At least with the custom kit, if I run into a pop and it blows up on me because I don't dodge out of the way in time, I can full heal my shields and my health and hopefully have some for the next firefight as well. The ironic thing is, if you really wanted to go with the least amount of risk, you wouldn't do a free loadout. You would do something like this, spending as little resources on a somewhat viable kit and just taking off your augment. Why? Because I can still run a shield, I can still run a Stitcher 1, I can still have my light ammo, I still have bandages, and I still have that one shield charger. Heck, if I wanted to, I can even toss in a couple of light impact grenades with just a few materials. You can almost do this essentially with the materials that Scrappy gives you on a return from a raid. You don't even have to do the Stitcher. Technically, the Ferro would be the best option because it takes the least amount of rubber and the least amount of metal parts out of everything. And so with this low budget economy loadout, you can essentially do everything that a free kit can with a little bit more, and it didn't take you that much more materials. You're not losing, quote unquote, all that much, because you're technically mostly losing what Scrappy gives you when you get home. So yes, while it's true technically you don't have to bring anything into a raid when you run free loadout, the risk that you run is the fact that all of the security that you have that comes with a custom loadout is no longer present. You don't have the ability to ensure you can last past one encounter with a pop, because you can at least bring in enough things to fully heal yourself. You can't ensure that the one good item that you found you can shove in your prison wallet to make sure that that little rat at extraction ganks you when you weren't paying attention because they're skulking in the darkness. You still have that one item. We even just proved that if you really want to, instead of running a free kit the way that people swear people are running, the way that people are saying that there's such a problem of how they're being run on Stella Montis, is by running a kit with just no augment in the exact same things. But all I'm constantly hearing is problems that persist within things that even if you took out the free loadout option would still be an issue. The Stitcher 1 can still be a heavy contender even if you got rid of free loadout. You spawning late doesn't change even if you get rid of or nerf free loadout. All of the problems that I'm hearing with the free loadout are problems that will exist even if you nerf the free loadout. There will be problems that will persist even if the free loadout was removed entirely from the game. And to me, why change the free loadout when you could change something much more significant and actually fix bigger issues within the game that are then exasperated by smaller things like the free loadout? To me, I think it's a better option to get at the root of the problem, which is things like gun balance. Things like how quickly I can get into a match. Why don't the devs have a quick pre-save option for us to where whenever I load in, I can select a custom loadout that has whatever that I want, but it just pulls the items from my stash? Because I wonder how many people use the free loadout simply so that they can get into their next match that much faster without having to play Menu Simulator and having to recreate half of their utility items or having to go to traders to buy a couple things so that they can go back to their workbenches to then craft something else to then go back to the trader. Anything that will eliminate that menu simulation, anything that will cut down that time being spent in menus and being spent prepping the raid and increase the time actually playing in a raid is a better option in my opinion. But none of the changes that I'm hearing specifically to the free loadout themselves are things that I think will actually fix those problems. I think they will just show us that these problems are already within the game, just free loadout gives you easier access to them. But ultimately, that's what the free loadout was always intended for the devs to be. Easier access to the game. Why would you want to change that aspect of it? And honestly, I don't think that the devs are going to change that one aspect of it, because that's the best part of free loadout. It keeps people playing when they would have had every other reason to turn the game off. I also think that that's why I'm not impressed by a lot of the solutions that I hear for how to nerf the free loadout, because everything is restrict how many times they can use it, limit how many times they can use it, which boils essentially down to get people playing less, when ultimately the goal for a game is to get people to play more. Do things that will get people to play more. If we are going to put the free loadouts on a token system, the only one that I've heard so far that's a good idea is making it related to something like a Speranza fair. You make a hub area in Speranza so that players can run around and interact with people, but mostly for the fact that they can play like those little arcade games, like those stall shooters where you use a fake gun and shoot rubber ducks or something. But something like that, if those were how you farmed the tokens that you would need to use for free loadout, I could get behind that, because once again, the idea is to keep people playing the game. They might not be in raid necessarily, but they're interacting with other players. They're interacting with the game in some sense. And to me, as a developer, I would always want to put in things that get people to interact more with my game, not interact less with my game. Embark has made it clear, Arc Raiders is not Tarkov. It's not trying to be Tarkov. Just because they're in the same game genre does not mean that they are the same game. Tarkov established itself as a grueling, hardcore experience where every single movement is supposed to make the difference on whether or not you can survive. The reason that you have to even do things like repack your magazines with ammo is because Tarkov's game design leads into how every meticulous decision makes or breaks your raid. Arc Raiders is not that hardcore. You wouldn't be able to pick up other enemies and revive them and be able to form camaraderies as easily as you do if that's the case. There wouldn't be a down but not out state. You wouldn't get downed in this game or in a game like this if it wanted to be more hardcore. So to me, if people want that more hardcore experience, anything that has something like a free loadout option, you're probably playing the wrong game in the first place. But all in all, those are the changes that I think really need to be made. How spawns work, how the weapon balance is right now. Adding something like a pre-save loadout would, I think, help a lot. And I think that even maybe something like the economy itself needs to have a pass looked over. Because, for example, if I want to buy shield chargers from Lance, they're pretty expensive. 1.5k a pop. If I want to buy a full stack, heck, with the amount of coin I have, I can't even do that because 2 is already through over 3k. Trying to buy a full stack of shield chargers is over 7 grand. That's as much as the tactical augments. That's as much as a medium shield. Why is it that the shield rechargers are so expensive themselves? I understand something like a defib being so expensive, but heck, a full stack of shield recharges is almost as expensive as a dang raider key hatch key is. Or hey, heck, even look at the jump between how much a bandage versus how much an herbal bandage is. 750 for a normal bandage, and then 2,000 on top of that, basically, for the next tier. Some of these things I think should be able to be bought a little bit easier, especially things that you use a lot more often, like shield rechargers or even ammo. I would say might need a pass over on the economy. And if those things were fixed, I think people would be a lot less upset with free loadouts because, well, I think people wouldn't need to run free loadouts as much as they do. I think that the power that free loadouts even has would finally be understood. Hey, it's not really within the free loadout, it's within everything else. Free loadout, the only thing that's good about it is the fact that you don't have to spend the materials to play. But that's about it. Aside from that, you don't really get any benefits. All of the benefits that you get, honestly, are outweighed by everything else in the game that's a negative for it. And as I said, running free augment is objectively a better option to do and doesn't take that much. But to me, I feel like none of these problems are tied to the free loadout. And I knew that they weren't the minute that everybody started complaining when Stella dropped. Because to me, that indicates that the issue wasn't present in the game before Stella. I don't even see people mention other maps most of the time in connection with the free loadout. It's mostly tied to Stella when people are talking about this in a discussion. I've never seen someone say free loadouts ruin Spaceport. Never heard anybody say free loadouts ruin damn Battlegrounds when the server slam was happening. Because ultimately, free loadouts don't ruin anything. It's just the experience that you're having on Stella being sour. But it's sour because people are playing Stella in a very particular way because of how everything else in the game is balanced. Fix the spawns, fix the weapons, fix the economy, fix having a quick save option, and I think that you don't need to change anything with the free loadouts themselves. It's the actual game that needs changing. Anyways, let me know how you guys feel about free loadouts. Do you think that they need a nerf? Do you think that they need limits? Do you think that the game itself needs changes like I do and that those changes would suffice enough to actually make the game have a better experience for everybody across the board? Do you think that it's just that people aren't accepting and understanding that Ark and Tarkov are kind of two different things and Ark just isn't presenting itself as that extremely hardcore option? Let me know in the comments. Anyways, I'm tired of having this discussion within the community because it feels like it's been going on forever. It's the same thing with the PvE versus PvP thing. Most of the players, I feel like, understand that it's just a part of the game, but you have an incredibly loud and vocal portion of the community who are just making everything else worse for everybody because they don't seem to understand that not everybody plays the game like they do. Not everybody wants to play the game like they do. And ultimately, that includes me. You don't have to agree with me or agree with any of the things that I feel, but I just really want to understand how so many people can point to so many particular problems that persist within the game and just think that, oh, it's because of free loadout, not those actual problems. Other than that, I appreciate everybody and anybody who came on through the video. Please like and subscribe and comment down below. Let me know what you feel about the free loadout problem, quote unquote, if there even is one, how you would change it, and what other changes that you would like to see. Other than that, share with your friends, share with your mama, and as always, peace and chicken grease, Raiders. Catch you topside. I'm out.